We have the good fortune of having Eleanor T. Loiacono, professor from WPI here. Those of you who want to ask questions, please remember, press the green button on your microphone and we'll take your questions. Those of you joining us online, please use your Q&A question and answer box and we'll take those questions. Thank you very much. Professor Loiacono, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. So I'm a professor of IT and data science at WPI. I am founder and director of the Idea Hub at WPI, which is the inclusive design and accessibility hub at WPI. We focus on looking at people with disabilities and technology kind of at that crossroads. I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about what the Idea Hub is, just give you a little bit more of a description, how we engage students in the work that we're doing, the research that we do, and looking at really trying to develop collaborations with other organizations and businesses around this area. We've heard a lot today about missing data and trying to get data and being able to analyze data. Our students are STEM students, science, technology, engineering, math, IT, and so I want them to be raised kind of with this idea of the importance of collecting data and bias in data for people with disabilities so that they understand as they go into the workforce. So the Idea Hub, you can find the web page or the site. It's given up here. It's the idea.wpi.edu. And the thing I wanted to kind of just bring out there is what we are really trying to do here. We want to be a premier research organization that helps in inclusive design and accessibility and working with organizations and students and faculty of different disciplines. So even working with robotics faculty, data science faculty, and collaborating so that we're looking at issues from a broader perspective and multidisciplinary. We have high quality students. So it's a project-based curriculum, so students have to work on 3 major projects during the time that they're at the university. Each one of those projects is the equivalent of 3 courses. So you can think about spending almost a year and a half worth of credit in terms of if they took every single thing all at once. And also make a positive difference in the world. That's part of our mission at WPI and part of what we hope to kind of invest in our students so that when they come out, they feel a civic duty in the work that they do. Okay, so the team here, as I mentioned, are interdisciplinary faculty. We have people from science, we have people from engineering, from business, humanities. We work on projects together. We have the students who are undergraduates, master's students. I have PhD students who I work with in this as well. And because WPI does these projects, we've been doing projects for quite a long time. Since the 1970s, but even before then, we have these interdisciplinary projects. And what we are based on is theory and practice. So we want the students to take not only what they've learned, right, and be able to regurgitate it back to us in terms of in a class, what do you know, but we actually make them put it to practice. And these are where the projects become really important. And so we have a lot of students who are working on projects, multidisciplinary groups, so from different majors to try and solve societal problems. And we also, in terms of, let me just click to the next one here. These projects that we have project centers across the globe. So these are project centers where students prepare prior to going in a preparatory course that kind of gives them some cultural background, some understanding of the problems. They're working with businesses and organizations at those sites. And as you can see here, we have over, I think we're close to 35, but we have over 30 sites where the students will go for a 7-week term and they will spend time working on some problems. So they have done things such as working in Namibia to look at dwellings and how best to create dwellings from waste that people have discarded, and doing analysis to see which is the best one to keep heat out during the day and keep heat in at night. So they're very, it's not only technology from a digital side. There's many different ones. So we are looking at kind of working globally with people given these sites. And then a little bit about the research I've specifically done with students in this as well. Some of them have dealt with app development. So I've worked with one student I'm currently working with who's continuing on from some other projects of students, looks at mindfulness-based stress reduction in college-age students with stress, anxiety, and depression. And so we're looking at developing we're actually in the process now of getting it up to putting content in it, and they're gonna actually be testing it out with the community. So that's one we're working with the Massachusetts Rehabilitation Center that is looking at people who do modifications to cars and vehicles for people with disabilities. And right now they have a paper-based form. The students are developing a website so that the information could be electronically collected all the way from the client, filling in the information and what they need, to the person who is handling that client and managing that case, to the person who does the evaluation. It can all be done online to expedite the process. And we've also developed a peer mentoring app for students with disabilities. And these are all through the projects that we've done. Additionally, I just had a paper that was accepted a year ago on neurodiversity in the high-tech workforce. Again, this is anything to do with IT is kind of the research that we focus on. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of information of what came out of that study as well, because it may be helpful to some, and I can give you the citation if it's interesting and you want to look further. But the lessons learned from kind of that research, which is a case-based study that looked at a US company and a European company and their practices of starting a pilot or a process for hiring on people with disabilities, specifically neurodiversity. There is 5 main lessons that we learned. The first was ensuring leadership support, which we've heard again and again here, that C-suite is very important to have that support. Rethinking the hiring process, that interviewing is not necessarily the best way to capture true talent for everybody. Providing education and training, and providing education and training in this sense means not for the people who necessarily have the disability or who are neurodiverse, but actually for the managers and the people who are kind of interacting with people who have a disability and need to kind of be able to understand what that means and how do they modify kind of what they're doing, or the fact that they don't have to modify, but what questions do they have, and getting those answered. And that gets to creating an open communication process where people can ask questions and feel comfortable, not be labeled by trying to be better with the people who are new to the organization and people who are working with the process or the management. And then also considering societal impacts. And I think we've heard that as well, that as companies and businesses and in organizations, and especially as we now see this influx of artificial intelligence, I think it's more important than ever that we think about what is the impact that we're having on society, and not just the bottom line that oftentimes we hear about. And this is the last slide before I'll go to questions, but one of the things, so the way that this research was set out was to really look at, again, what are the critical parts of an employee's life cycle, and to figure out kind of what are the issues. And I know there's a lot of text on there, but I'll just kind of talk about each one quickly, and I know the quotes and just what do I mean by each. So when at the top one, you see it says managerial support. And really, I think the thing there, and we mentioned about educating managers, is that people fail to get along often because they're not communicating. Right? They don't know. And so the big thing is to break down that barrier with open communications and help them understand each other, be able to ask questions without being labeled as somebody who's ignorant or doesn't know or should know, but to have that open communication. As well as advocacy and policy, right? It's important that we're able to be, as leaders, that we help support people and supporting others, and not, that's truly, if you're empowering others, then you truly are a leader, as opposed to just telling people what to do, right? So really empowering workers. Accommodations and individual needs, again, understanding that just giving everybody the same thing doesn't mean that you're making it really truly open to people, but that you need to see what people need to help them, so that they can both come to the table with what they need to do their work. And finally, in terms of recruitment and that diversity, and we see this a lot, especially in the high-tech workforce and with companies, is that creativity and innovation are critical. And if we don't have diversity of thought in that area, then we're going to lose creativity and innovation. We need people who not only think differently, but are willing to stand up and against the groupthink mentality sometimes, where, you know, oh, we should do this, okay, let's all do that, without playing devil's advocate and really getting at why are we doing it this way. And so these are the findings that I, in this particular research, and I did this research as well with a data science PhD student who did some of the preliminary analysis to look at where people had been talking about neurodiversity in the area. So even though this is kind of more qualitative, what I'm presenting here, we did do some data analytics with what we had. And so with that, I just want to open up, because what I'm really interested in is getting collaboration in terms not only in projects, but for example, in the spring, I'll be teaching a data science course, and we've been talking a lot about data, a lot of lack of data, but even, you know, having data and not knowing how to analyze it, right? These are perfect opportunities for students who are in this area to be able to take data sets. What I'm hoping to do is to train them to be able to realize that it's not just data sets from businesses and sales and that, but consumers, and, you know, maybe we're not representing people with disabilities in the data, and to teach them about the biases that are out there because of that. So for me, I'm hoping to build relationships with businesses, like I said, and organizations, to be able to get the students involved, get research involved. And I'll just end there and open it up for questions. Hopefully I wasn't too, I didn't even have the 5 minutes up, so I think that's good. Okay.
Hi. Should I continue? Yes. Okay, okay. Thank you very much. As I've been sitting down listening since morning, the different presenters have done well through their presentations. As a person from Africa, from an underdeveloped country, I'm just wondering, as I've been listening, because most of the presenters are presenting about the strides they've done and their initiatives towards improving the livelihood of persons with disabilities. Therefore, my concern is this. If I look at the fiscal situation of our countries, how possible that all that has been discussed here can become true to countries like Swaziland, where I come from, because if I look at the situation, even though I am here, when I go back home, I will be able to relate what I've been listening to people presenting here, and it will be like a storytelling. My concern is there any provision that most of these colleagues who have been presenting that can give some sort of an intervention for those underdeveloped countries, because most of the aids and the other initiatives they've been talking about, it is in their countries. Therefore, if a country like Swaziland wants to engage into such activities, it will also become a fiscal problem, because if we want all these interventions, we will have to we'll have to raise money to buy, or maybe to lobby with these colleagues who have these apes and the other interventions. So I'm just wondering if our colleagues can come out with some sort of an intervention that will provide the enhancement of what they've been presenting to underdeveloped countries. Thank you.
Okay, that's a great question, a very hefty question. And so I'm going to try and answer it the best I can. If I don't, please let me know. I can just talk from my part. One of the things with what we do with the students in terms, and why we have so many global project centers, is that we try and have the students engage with the community to come up with answers and solutions that are sustainable for them, not just, you know, technology for technology's sake or to build. And I want to give you an example. Doesn't necessarily have to do too much with the technology per se, digital technology. But we had a group, the project that I was talking about, that was in Africa, and they went, and one of the problem is that the government actually was funding people to purchase homes, but they were, I think, I want to say 10,000, don't hold me to, but $10,000 to invest into getting a home. The problem is the people didn't even have that amount of money to actually purchase the home, right? So what the students went there, and they prep before they go, the organization that they were working with and the community, so not just an organization unto its own, but actually the community and the people who live there, was to develop what could they use that was waste, right? And when I talk about waste, I mean building waste that people haven't used to actually build homes that were reasonable for them. And one of the big things that they were talking with the people in the community was, it gets very hot in here, or very hot there during the day. It gets very cold at night. We need something that could deal with that, keeps heat in at night and coolness. And so the students actually, they took a very scientific approach to that. So it wasn't just, well, let's build you something. They had to build it. They actually had to test using, you know, temperature monitors, and they had to track it over weeks that they were there to see, did the temperature, and they had to build different types of dwellings so that they could actually test and see which materials did better for keeping heat in at night and dispersing it during the day. And so it was a very methodical approach, advised by faculty in the areas. So it would, you know, you would have students like this probably advised by an engineer, along with somebody who may be from the business school, so that they're looking at the economics of it, and they're also looking at the issues of material in that. Now, I use this example because to me, and there are many more examples like this, but this story just to me really exemplifies what projects can do when you're working with students. Is when the students were there was real concern that coming from the US and going to an African country, and that there may be some problems with, you know, them not understanding, not getting to know the community. But they really got embedded in the community. They were playing with the kids, they're playing football, they were, or soccer, and really got involved in the community. When the project was done and they left, a woman who was in the community, who was pregnant at the time that they were there, named that child after, it was a girl, and named it after one of the female students who was on that project. So it kind of brings home, we're not just looking at projects that are a semester long or something where you know, students are going in and saying, this is what you should do. We're looking at them learning to work with the community to actually come up with answers, or not answers, but solutions and things that could then be taken on by the community. but to leverage kind of their expertise in what they're learning, their science, their engineering degrees that they're coming with. So to me, I think the big thing is to be able to not just go there and say, here's the solution, this is how much it costs, but for students to go and actually participate actively with the community to find out what's a solution that will work for them. And the benefit to those students is that, you know, they're getting the experience of real life problems and dealing with it. And the benefit to society is not only helping that community, but having engineers and scientists and that who are going out into the world who understand that they have to give back, that you know, with their power of their knowledge comes responsibility to the world. And so that's how we look at it. So it's a quite long answer. I apologize for that, but did I hit upon what you were looking for, or? Okay, thank you.
Well, excellent. We just have about 1 more minute before we close up here. I want to ask a quick question or have an observation, because you touched upon it just now, but you talked about values and students and how important it is. And the plenary speaker about an hour or so ago spoke about how sometimes in ICT students come in, you ask them, you know, what they want to do, and they want to be a billionaire. And he talked about the importance of values and formation. And could you speak? You already brought out, I think, in your excellent presentation, the importance of values. But if you have any tips for people working with young people, especially, what sort of tips you have to evoke this? It's not just about money. It's not just about the program or prestige, but it's about community. It's about finding solutions for people in developing countries. How would you encourage people to bring out those sorts of soft skills or that sort of passion for helping other people?
Yeah, so I think one of the things with the projects is one way to engage, because they actually see it and they see what impact they make. I've never had a problem with finding students to participate, not just because they have to do these projects, but what I often find is that students will know somebody who has a disability or will have a disability themselves, and it will come out as they join the project and they're interested, and then they will disclose to me after they feel comfortable. And so I think the thing is getting them engaged in something that's real, that they can have an impact on. Because a lot of times, especially in business schools, you see a lot of projects of going out into the business and, okay, what's the bottom line here? But you can really, if you have projects like this where you're engaging them in a societal way, it really sparks their interest. And then they see how much impact they've had, and they kind of want to continue that. So even if they go into a job where it doesn't necessarily, you know, it's bottom line, it's in business, they will often volunteer or do other things to do that. So I think you just allow them to have experiences to talk about how you bring that into the workforce. If they're, you know, how it is incorporated into the work you do, allowing them to participate in projects like that in the community.
Thank you very much. Sadly, we're coming to an end, but I just want to show the appreciation here from the audience. Dr. Loiacono from the Worcester Polytechnic Institute, thank you very much for the presentation, and have a very good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.